Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling. I should see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today. Recording a lot earlier than usual today, because I will be busy in the afternoon, evening sort of a time-ish. Yes, what happened recently? I don't know. We stayed up a little bit late playing some Valorant last night. I've got a place now in ranked, and you might be like, "Whoa, dear darling, you play ranked Valorant?" Only with my friends. I wouldn't play it by myself, not because I'm just like, ranked. It's more like I don't care that much, I think. But good morning, everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow, it's 9:05 a.m. on Saturday, January 18th, 2025. Valorant very much being, I think, or coming into the sort of flavour of the game, flavour of the month, where but people are sort of leaving League behind. Because very much interestingly, League is getting some very crazy, for a while now, has the not monetization necessarily, but like where the in-game monetization is probably how I put it, has been going very sort of downhill over and over. Like, if you don't know, if you haven't played League of Legends, and I don't necessarily want to speak for the entire community because I don't know for sure, it's just kind of what I've heard through the grapevine, and based on rough things that I know, is that, League of Legends, actually, when I started, they had the system, the in-game currency system was very, very, very grindy. Like, it took so long to get anything. But then they introduced a really cool loot system. Like, basically, it would, you can start getting, like, premium stuff, like skins for free. And it would be a lot cheaper for new players to get champions randomly, because essentially you would get an item which is basically half the cost of a champion, is essentially, or you could get rid of that and just turn it into the raw currency, because you know one of the rare free-to-play games I think nowadays where you don't just start off with everyone. Valorant too, so I guess that's a pattern of Riot Games, huh? And it was a really great system. People loved it. Generally well beloved. Even people who've been playing for a long time will just be like, okay, yeah, I mean, now I just get like free stuff every now and then. And the new player's experience was greatly enhanced. There was nothing worse, I think, than being a new player, grinding out all this currency to try and like get a new champion, playing a champion and being like, oh, I don't really like this champion. I remember I did that with a champion called Jana, which is crazy because I actually really like playing Jana now. But I think just maybe like my first few games were just like a really sour experience with her. Like I was just like, oh, she seems so cool, like a cool ult to just like basically reset an entire team fight essentially. And then I bought her and I played her and it just went horribly. And I was like, okay, I'll give it another try. I played her and we lost again horribly. And I was like, okay, I'm never playing this champion again. I can't believe I saved up, because she was expensive at the time, I think. I was like, I can't believe I saved up all this money and just, wasted it, I guess. Anyway, nowadays I do play Jana. Jana's a lot of fun. But yeah, basically the long and short was that the loot system, that they had, which was basically this chest and key system, kind of like from Rocket League if you've played that, or TF2, except for you actually get the keys without buying them. They understand it, they kind of like overhauled it completely to make it like basically impossible to get chests. It's the classic sort of capitalist thing where it's just like, how do I put it? Well, I shouldn't say necessarily capitalist thing. I guess it's because it's publicly traded company, profits come first, as is the nature of those who are stakeholders want to make money from it. I'm not going to go on a whole diatribe about capitalism here, because one, I'm not like a financial, economic expert, shall I say, so maybe that's not really my place to say, and whatever, you have your own opinions, and it's all sort of like, oh, you criticize that, yet you engage with it, which is not the whole thing I'm prepared to go into with Animal Crossing. But long and short is they are getting rid of the loot system, kind of, or like they introduced something which massively nerfed how much you can get of the in-game currency. And then obviously people were like outraged about it, and then they pulled it back, but it's still basically a nerf system from before, which is a very sneaky way, to do things. And once it's been pointed out to you, it's something that you start noticing, quite a lot, where it's sort of like, oh, you're, I don't know, engaging with something, and then whatever thing you're engaging with gets massively, massively reduced, like to an absurd degree. Door and face tactic, I think it's called. So much so that there's public outcry about it, and then the people roll it back, but only they don't roll it back the entire way. They roll it back slightly, like be like, we listen to your feedback, or reworking it, and then on that note they just like do a little something just to sort of pull it back. And with that, people are like, oh, okay, it's still massively enough from before, but most of the people maybe don't realize that necessarily, or maybe they do, but like the outcry about it isn't as big as before, so there isn't much traction, and then it eventually dies down and people just get used to it. That's kind of like the modus operandi, I suppose. We're very sneakishly getting in updates for things which will nerf the user experience. I shouldn't say gamer terms nerf, because it doesn't apply just to games, but it'll diminish the user experience or benefits or whatever, but then not much outcry about it. And when you know of that existence, the door on the face technique, you definitely see it very often, right? I'm trying to think of a good example off the top of my head. Not that I can think of one. So maybe, I mean, look for your own examples before you take my word as gospel truth, eh? I don't mean that in a critical sense. I mean that in my own failure sense, being like, I can't think of a good example right now, so it's kind of hard for me to justify it, but whatever. I guess Overwatch kind of did that, didn't they? I can only think of video game examples. Anyway, I talk about this because I know, I mean, because there's been a slight pivot away, I suppose, from League to Valorant, but Valorant's not exactly much better, I think, with its sort of system. It's just, Valorant's kind of got like the old system that League had, of like the real slow grind to actually unlock people. Because I remember when I started playing Valorant, like, I don't know what happened. Like, did I take away agents? Because I played Valorant from release, like a little bit, like with a little bit of the first season or whatever. And then I played a little bit again when Killjoy was released. I still think before levels were introduced, like ever. But I distinctly swear I remember playing most of the champions. Like, I remember playing Cypher, but I don't have Cypher as on my account anymore. Where is he? I don't know. But the only thing I can assume is they've taken him away or something. Like, maybe they reworked the system and it's like, oh, you can only these champions or agents are always completely free. I don't know when that happened, but it's kind of wild, isn't it? Just like a what? And I also bring it up because I actually, since this new wave of us playing again, I've actually unlocked my first new agent. I was going to do Vise, but then I was just like, I already have a Sentinel character I love playing, and I only have one other character I enjoy playing, and that's Omen. And I was like, I should get a character in a different role, which I'll still enjoy playing. So this is like very technical Valorant talk. Basically, there's different sort of like roles, like think of it like classes, like RPG sort of style classes, although not really. But that's just kind of a metaphor. And I was like, I already have one of the same class I like playing. I should get one of a different class. So I picked up Fade. But it's really taken quite a while, huh? And I haven't been exactly grinding it out like some of my other peers. Friends have. Piss was such a weird word to use there. I don't mean that in a bad way, of course. They're like, we're perfectly okay with like grinding out. They want to play for that long. But I'm just sort of like hopping in every now and then. And when that does happen, it's sort of like, oh, I don't know what I was going to say, but it's what is it? I don't know. It just takes a long time, huh? It'd be just nice if it was a little bit faster. I mean, to be fair, they do have a thing where, like, if you play during a new agent's release and you just play enough, like, you don't even need to play that much. I think you have like a month time period or something. You get the person for free, which is actually pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, that's a pretty good system. But obviously it's not consumer first. If it was consumer first, they would just all be unlocked. But it's I guess it's a compromise, isn't it? Whereas it's like the company is kind of like, I want to make money, and then us as consumer and be like, right, because capitalism. Okay, I guess that makes sense. But I don't. It's not that I don't think you should make money. It's more like I want to engage with your service in a way that is most befitting to me. Right? Like, okay, this is a compromise. If you play the game, I suppose, then you won't have to pay. But if you But if you don't play during that time, you will have to pay them. And it's like, okay, I don't know. Is that the best we could do? Is that great? Maybe, you could argue, but yeah, maybe that is like a reasonable compromise. Maybe you argue that no, but that's not something necessarily we should stand up for. I don't know, necessarily. I'm not here to really weigh judgment on that. I'm more here to talk about the monetization system in games. And it's certainly become like a bit more iffy. I mean, people talk to Fortnite as sort of like a golden standard, which is also ironic because, well, not ironic, but it's a one which is very much taken off with kids who are, I suppose, most susceptible to be sort of in-game purchases and predatory, quote, nature of them. I guess, when people say predatory, they think more of like microtransactions within games or something, gacha games-esque sort of things, which, by the way, apparently the creators of Genshin Impact Mihoyo got like, they're not allowed to, like, they have to age restrict their game now, I suppose, which makes sense, to be honest. Like, gacha is gambling, essentially. Not essentially, is. It's just you don't get money in return, you get, I suppose, digital goods. So very much be careful, I suppose, if you are, not of the age to necessarily make, as always, sound decisions about your financial. I was trying to say financial and fiscal combined, but I didn't. Systems or choices, I should say. Oh, I can get my plushy hissy potion today. So yeah, that's something that always like kind of made sense to me. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just kind of a shame, if anything. Well, it's not like, I mean, it's by the nature of having a public company, a publicly traded company, I should say, which a lot of game studios are, I suppose, to actually get like investment and money in the first place. And, as nice as it'd be that everything could be privately traded, or I suppose better put, everything is not for stakeholders and traders financial wealth. Being privately owned means that they can sort of determine by themselves how they like to do things. And isn't that happening with like Bumble at the moment or something? If you don't know, Bumble is kind of like is it a dating app first, or is it more like a meeting with people? I guess it kind of is a dating app first. Either way, no matter what you believe it to be, like, it wasn't that a thing where like it's something about it, like it got a new CEO, got like new management, like, and it just went horribly downhill somehow. I can't remember what happened. Like, they changed things. Anyway, they changed things, and I don't know, something crazy happened, and I don't know. I guess it's all in the pursuit of increased stock price, whatever. But like, I remember I was reading like the article about it. Or I should say Reddit thread. I'll be real. This one was not a news article. And then someone brought up like a point that it happened with, I can't remember, was it Match.com or Plenty or Fish or something? No, OkCupid, I think it was, before they got bought out by another dating site called Match.com, and how they would actually release constant sort of blogs before they became like publicly traded, I suppose, after being bought out. Criticizing, about the payment scheme models for dating sites, etc., because the general idea is you don't want to pay for a dating site because that means you are the service, which means that if your ultimate goal is to find a partner and then stop using their service, that's bad financially for them. So their ultimate goal should not be for you to actually be matched up. It's not in their best interest for you to actually find a partner. Their best interest is for you to use this as long as possible, which essentially means that they will put in these sort of practices to make sure that you like almost feel like you've almost found the one or something, but never will. And I'm just like, that's crazy. What, like, you hear that and it's like, that kind of makes you feel like what a dystopian world we live in, isn't it? But I guess that is just sort of by the nature of the world that, as I don't say that we created, because it's not exactly like I had much of a hand in it, to be honest, but except for just by, I suppose, existing within it, which I feel like is a bit, that's kind of like trying to ascribe blame. Well, maybe we don't need to ascribe blame, but try to ascribe, what's a word? What's another word for blame, which is not blame? Whatever. where it needn't be. But that's why I sort of say a lot of this time I'm sort of like two minds about it, where I'm just like, oh, this is obviously bad as a consumer, but it's kind of cool, not cool, but it's fascinating to hear about, because I was like, I would never think of something like that. Well, maybe I would, but that's not really where my mind defaults, I suppose. It's just sort of like fascinating sort of look into like I've never considered that before to even be an issue. But I guess it probably goes not just with dating sites. That's kind of one where the intention of a consumer is like the antithesis to the goal of the business, I suppose. So what I mean to say after all of this is I don't know. I don't know what I meant to say. I mean, like, what's a privately traded game company? Like, is it like only Valve I can think of? Who, like, even like Nintendo is like publicly traded, which is crazy to say because Nintendo have been very much on their own sort of wave of I do my own thing. But I don't know, maybe that's because they're such a titan in the industry or something. Or maybe I'm overlooking other things. I don't know. Anyway, I don't look into the game industry that much. I just sort of see what is spoken about. But Valve is like privately traded, or a private company, I should say. Privately traded doesn't really make much sense, but which now I think about it, when we played Deadlock, right? You could get all the heroes just immediately, couldn't you? Yeah, like you could play anyone just straight off the bat. I mean, mind you, I only played Paradox, and mind you, we didn't even play it for that long, to be honest. Gave it a try. It's okay, I'm not sure though. Like, for my personal consensus is that I found it a fine game, but I'm not sure that the shooter experience, whether the MOBA experience is something that I engage too much in. But maybe that's because I don't know, maybe I just haven't given it enough of a try, maybe it's just too new. But I don't know. But what I mean to say, basically, long short bit is like Valorant's been a quite nice time, to be honest. Valorant is a game that I kind of wanted to get into. Because, the only shooter I got into before was Siege. But Siege is Siege very much now is a bit more of like, feels a bit more of a shooter, but it's always more of like a tactical. I don't know how to put it, because it is very much a shooter. It would be misleading to say it's not a shooter, but it's more like when you play it, it doesn't feel like the same as you like playing CSGO or anything like that. It's more like you tactically try to open up and find angles and things like that, which is still cool in its own right. But yeah, I was actually having a conversation with some friends about it, and he was basically just like, oh, I kind of like, I think I prefer Valorant to Siege, and I was like, that's fair, I think. I was saying with this friend is because he's very, very good at the gunplay portion of Valorant, and he was unsurprisingly, he was good at the gunplay portion of Siege. Like, while I'd like to think I'm better at him at playing Siege, like, in general, he was always way better than me at actually, like, picking those gunfights. Unsurprisingly, he plays entry for us, like, all the time, and he's a duelist, but I was saying with Siege that it's a game where you can make up for bad gunplay with both map knowledge and just sort of like in-game knowledge, right? Because you can find a weird angle which people won't expect, and there's nothing you can really do as someone who is good at gunfights, because you wouldn't even like, why would you look in this like one specific spot? Or like you can get like a good flank off, and like you're fighting someone, and then you like try and sort of chase them or whatever, they take like a different path and like they suddenly flanked you. Stuff like that. Valorant is a bit harder to. It's much more about like its immediate gameplay, but it's more about, I would say, how you use the agent abilities to give you those favourable gunfights. Or Siege is not, they don't have as many sort of combat focused utilities, I suppose. In the game, utilities are, but there are definitely like quite a few, but a lot of them are also about sort of opening up these new angles, right? More about like actually entering. The thing I was thinking about, like, because I was like, do I prefer Valorant to Siege? In one hand I do, mainly because more people, I suppose, are playing it, more people are much more into it, so it's easier for me to be into it. But with Siege as well, I think one thing I do like about Valorant is Valorant has a nicer sort of wave of doing things, not doing things. With Siege, it always felt like you constantly had to be doing things like 24/7. Like, you have your drones, you have your cameras, you got to flick through, where you also need to watch them, and you also got to listen all the time, because literally everything in Siege makes a sound. So you always have to be constantly vigilant for that. There's like so many, someone could be creating these crazy angles all the time, and because the bomb sites that you're guarding are basically right there. If you're anchoring, it's sort of just like, you have to keep your wits about you like all the time. You know, maybe someone's on a window and you might have someone's like roaming about. You got to feed this information. Not so that you don't have to do similar things in Valorant, but I think for one, a lot of the information is easily shared across because you have a mini-map. So if someone sees something, everyone knows that they've seen them, right? The bomb sites are also separated, so there'll be a lot of times when you're on the rounds where like your bomb site will not be the immediate target of the attack of a push. So you yourself will, you know, have a sort of bit of downtime, and sometimes you won't have a bit of downtime. And also when you are dead in Valorant, it's not as important that you need to be like on the cameras, on drone watch or whatever like that, because that's the thing while you're playing Siege, is you need to actively be doing stuff while you're dead, and you need to be watching those drones, you need to be watching the cameras, you need to be an extra set of eyes, not on the people. But Valorant you can't do that, you can just like feel free to spectate. And so I think my friend said that yeah, it's things feel a lot more casual and chill in Valorant, and I think that's kind of true. Mainly because people concentrate a lot more on Siege, because you kind of have to, like, because if you talk too much, you talk over sound, that could mean you're deaf, right? And that's a thing which ends up mattering in Siege, but in Valorant it doesn't matter, because things either don't make a sound or very, very deliberately make a sound, which actually is, you know, quite a nice design choice, I think, in that aspect. I think they're both nice in their own respect, because they have different focuses, right, on games, but of what experience they're trying to go for. But hey ho, here we go. For now, Valorant is kind of a flavour of choice, and you know, a while back I was like, I kind of wanted to get into Valorant, so and then didn't quite get into it the first time, but the second time round, hey, it's working. Anyway, on that note, I'm gonna round this episode off here, and I'm gonna go record another Crab's Treasure, and then we'll come back to, well, we'll not come back to anything, I just won't be here, I suppose. So if you haven't been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. Excuse me. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Well, I hope we can see each other again, but for now it's our farewell. So until next time, bye bye for now.